Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, Patreon exclusive time is here. That's right, we watched Mandy on Kill by Kill. Greetings and salutations, Internet. This is your old pal Patrick Hamilton coming to you exclusively to your Patreon feed. What a wonderful thing to have. This is the Kill by Kill podcast, but it's just for you. Not everyone gets to listen to this fun time. And as always, there's only one person I trust to help me hunt down a cheddar goblin when I need it. The one and only Gina Radcliffe. How you doing, Gina?
I'm doing great. This is a more and more casual, low-key episode. I've got my lounging pajamas on. Patrick, I understand you've got a smoking jacket just for these occasions.
Yes, it's the finest of smoking jackets. It's billowing as we speak. I'm drinking
We've got the fondue dish out, just little get-together for our closest friends.
I've got a Glen Scotia 15-year scotch on the rocks going. That's where I'm at.
That soft Playboy Jazz Festival album going on.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, baby. Oh, man. That's the one thing I just... the only sort of Playboy Jazz Festival thing I ever did was actually in Portland, Oregon. And we laid out our blanket and our chairs, I'd say around 11:30, 11:45. And we were there and we were enjoying ourselves. And at some point around 2 o'clock, we said, well, let's go to the food trucks and get something to eat. And when we came back, someone had moved all of our stuff.
Oh, God.
And we're like, why would you do that? And this couple was like, yeah, your chairs were in our way. Your chairs are taller than our chairs. Why would we be in your way? Why would you ever think it's okay to move someone else's stuff, especially when they were there before you? They did not have an answer for that, but Portland was not the dream of the 90s for me, unless your dream was a couple moves your fucking stuff.
I think we could spend a whole hour just ranting about festival concerts because they're hell. They're worse than the places that Nicolas Cage goes to avenge the death of his girlfriend in Mandy.
Yes. Just a quick review of the plot, and it won't take us long. He plays Red, who's just your average, everyday lumberjack. Deep woods lumberjack, apparently. The kind of job you can only get to via helicopter is what I gather.
Yeah. I mean, it's unclear where this is supposed to take place. I assumed it was somewhere in the Pacific Northwest.
Yes, I assumed as well. Either Northern California, deep redwoods of Oregon, perhaps Washington State. But yeah, somewhere in that general vicinity is the vibe it's giving off. Anyways, Red is in a relationship. They don't appear to be married. Neither of them is wearing a wedding ring, at least not that I noticed. But he's in a relationship with Mandy, who is a woman out of time.
Yeah, she's a little kind of ethereal, but in a kind of creepy sort of way. And I have to admit that when I try to go into the movie knowing as little about the plot as possible, I was just all I knew about it was that he is avenging the death of his girlfriend, who is tied up with some sort of cult. And I was like, well, that turned out to be not exactly what happens, but I kind of thought that she was going to end up being sort of the villain in this, because she's a little spooky. She's got this big old scar down the side of her face that the movie never really bothers explaining how she got it. So I kind of got the impression, she fled the cult and now they're coming back for her. But no, actually it's something a little more terrifying than that, and it's something we went into a little bit with the episode we just did on Halloween, is that it's completely random. She's just walking down the road and this creepy Jamie Gum-esque cult leader is in his boogie van with his followers, and he just sees her and he's like, I want her. And then he just basically pretty much literally says, I want her, get her for me. And no, didn't, no connection, never saw her before in his life. She never saw him. It's completely random, and that makes it much scarier than if she had been, a former member of the cult who had escaped.
Yes. I mean, she's obviously had a life. And before we go any further, Gina that's what it is. Mandy's is taken by this cult. She is killed, and the rest of the movie is Red's journey of revenge. And you would get that from the trailer. So if you don't want anything else spoiled for you, you downloaded this, pause it, go watch Mandy. It's well worth your time, and then come back to us. But in terms of like who Mandy is as a character, she obviously has a history, and you could subtitle this movie, We Don't Have a Backstory. Because Mandy is everyone comes into this, everything you know about them is only what you pick up along the way. She's just a girl who happens to have very defined likes and wants. She likes swords and sandals fantasy, and she likes, drawing, and she's very good at it. And she's obviously not super connected to the world so much, and Red's sort of the same. And so I guess their relationship is based on that sort of mutual, they're an island unto themselves.
Right, but what makes this movie work for me is at the end you kind of get a very brief glimpse of how they met, and it was at a party. It was just like the most mundane. Back in the day, children, before the internet, you had to meet people in person, and it was fucking terrible. But yeah, we should also point out that this movie sort of kind of takes place in the 80s, I think.
1983 is the stamp they put on the first title card.
1983.
Yeah. So, and that's the other thing I really liked about it, because Panos Cosmatos, whose dad was a giant director in the early 80s through the 90s, films of note of him that he directed would be Tombstone would be a big one. Cobra would be another. And
yes,
of unknown origin, the giant rat in the walls movie.
Oh, we get into a couple of those in bonus episodes, believe me.
Yeah. So he had a style to him, but I think Panos puts him to shame. I mean, he is a real stylist.
Oh,
and
yeah.
So,
I mean, this movie's got a lot of Hellraiser,
yes,
a lot of Suspiria in the very nightmarish lighting, little touches, Silence of the Lambs, mostly in Jeremiah, the cult leader, who again I got a very big Jamie Gum vibe from him. But yeah, no, this is very, very. I know people who, this is one of the movies, there's no in between with this movie. People either love it or they hate it. And I suspect that is going to be the same response that the remake of Suspiria is going to get. You are either 100% all in, or you're like, yeah, no, I'm turning this off. This is doing nothing for me.
And I think that's almost better.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that's where you find the movies that you really dig into. I mean, I'm sure there are movies in all of our lists where the vast majority of people are like, yes, that is a classic. I wholeheartedly agree. But there's also something to be said for something that you either hate or love is because it is aimed at a very specific target. And this is aimed specifically at people who would be into this shit.
Oh yeah, and it's for all the homages, it is 100% a absolutely unique vision. It's I mean the pretty much the movie stops in the middle for an extended commercial for a brand of macaroni and cheese called Cheddar Goblin, which is it's the most. I mean, in a movie that has a Cenobite biker gang, one of them I'm 99% certain has a sword for a dick. this is still the weirdest scene in the whole movie. The
or a giant
goblin.
thorn. I'm not.
Yeah, there's some sort of barbed weapon where his crotch is.
Yes.
So I don't know if that's, if he was born that way or if it's part of his, his bondage gear that he's wearing. But be that as it may, this commercial that Red is either really watching or hallucinating at some point is both the weirdest and the funniest scene in the whole movie. It is. I don't know if this is confirmed. It supposedly was directed by the person who directed Too Many Cooks.
Yes,
I can see it
blow by blow. Yeah.
So it is. So it actually is. Okay.
It actually is, and they approached him through people that they mutually knew. And at one point, it was just, "Can you make a puppet?" And then it's like, "Could you do this and could you do that? And how much could could you do it for nothing?" Or then I think they found some money, but it was basically, this is going to be on in the background, and I want it to be so surreal that people won't know whether or not it's real. And it does that in spades.
Oh, yeah. It's and again, to compare it to another weird scene, the scene with the tiger. Again, none of these scenes have any sort of real bearing on what could be just a standard revenge plot. But it's just so, both of them are just so, what the fuck am I watching moments. But they're just like, okay, this is, as the kids say, this is extremely my shit. and that's what I was thinking the whole time I was watching. This is extremely my shit.
Yeah. I agree with you. It is, and I responded to it in a way that was much more into my shit than I did Beyond the Black Rainbow, his previous film, which I liked, and it was an interesting pastiche, and I liked what it was going for, but it didn't hook me the way this did. And I won't say it's necessarily Nicolas Cage that did it for me. He doesn't hurt. But I think it's a better constructed narrative as far as lulling you into a place, because that was so THX 1138 with Suspiria on top of it. This one pulls back on the Suspiria from a plot standpoint and pushes just the aesthetic of it. But it's really a very simple linear story within it. And it's the performances, and particularly Mandy, that scene in which Linus Roach, who plays Jeremiah, the scene where he has drugged Mandy and is attempting to get into her head to make her part of the cult. And if you don't like this movie after that sequence, you might as well turn it off, because that is singular. I mean, it is probably one of the most dazzling things, and it's so simple, but it is so evocative and rich and deep, and there's meaning and text and subtext of her weaving in and out of him in both and this is being projected from him. His goal is to take her and scoop out her insides and put himself into it, like he has the bank of sycophants that are around him, and it doesn't work. And oh my God, it is so fucking fat. I just love that moment.
Oh yeah, there was an excellent. I want to say it was in Vulture, write up about how it is the best Ban All Men movie of 2018. Because he is heavily coming on to her, and he's just using a line about how everything's so beautiful, and I just want you to be a part of me, and just trying to be smooth and seductive and soft spoken, and trying to be unintimidating and trying to be nice to her, and and of course he. And all props to Linus Roche for doing a very long full frontal nude scene.
Yes,
because he was standing there for a while.
Yes,
and this is a movie where there's no female nudity, and I sent a prayer up to God saying, "Thank you, Jesus, there were no rape scenes," because
I was very nervous
much
about
could have gone in that direction. It was
but
everything
in
was
a way,
pointing towards there's going to be a rape scene.
in a way, I feel like it is without. They found a way to do it in a way that is not overtly sexual. He is violating her psychologically. He's violating her emotionally. This is happening against her will. She is drugged against her will to the point where she can barely stand. And here comes this guy. And the whole point of drugging her to this point is to completely obliterate her sense of self so that he has power over her. So all of the subtext of what would in a lesser film be that sort of rape scene is there without having to go into graphic sexuality beyond his full frontal nude scene, which he just presents himself, not erect, probably stoned past the point of actually being erect, and she openly laughs in his face.
And he cries, which is the most astonishing part about that. He's just devastated that she's rejecting him like this. And I mean, it's fascinating that they go to that point of showing that sort of very childish, you hurt and rage at, how dare this woman, reject my manliness, you reject my line of, being, the new person in her life that she never knew she needed before.
Yeah, the film that I kept thinking about when I watched it again a couple nights ago was Revenge, by Corinne Frogat.
I haven't seen it yet.
It's an exclusive to Shudder, although it had a brief theatrical run, and I think it's on VOD as well. But as far as like a streaming thing, it's exclusive to Shudder, and it's got it's a revenge film with a French extremity vibe to it, set in the California desert, and it doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but it's practically supernatural how she's still alive. But there is a scene in which she's violated by one of the group of this men whom she doesn't know is going to be in the same house as her and her married boyfriend, but they show up early. And I was like, oh, even though it's directed by a woman, but she definitely, there's a lot of exploitative elements to it. And here it felt like this is a completely exploitation plot that doesn't exploit Mandy. Mm-mm. And that's what I found somewhat revolutionary about it.
Oh, yeah. It went out of its way to embarrass and humiliate the villain over and over again. I mean, how undignified is your last minutes on Earth? If you're begging the person there to kill you, I'll suck your dick if you don't do it. I mean, oh my God. That's just, that's how much more humiliated could he possibly get at that point?
I mean, he's never cool.
No,
it's a real choice, and they give him an air of, at some point, someone must have thought he was cool. But they never portray him as cool at any point. He's the leader of a cult who abide by every word he says. He has these 3 Cenobite bikers who apparently are taking orders from him so long as he provides them with acid.
It's an exchange. He'll sacrifice one of his cult members to them. So I think it's a fairly
it's a business
symbiotic relationship. He needs them as much as they need him. But I mean, did you get a load of the people in his cult though? He's not scooping up the best and brightest in the Pacific Northwest.
His cult has the best people, that's what I hear back. That's what I hear. He's just got the best and the brightest. In Trump-like terms of cult members. I mean, he's got the best mouth breathers.
He's got the best, like, off-brand Richard Jenkins, like.
Oh, and that poor woman who's his microchemist. She's not the big chemist, but apparently she knows how to do some of the things that the main chemist knows how to do, including owning a giant bug in a jar of goop.
Yeah, it was some sort of, like, acid-soaked wasp, and this is, like I said, this is a very singular vision. You will never see another movie quite like this.
No. And, as amazing as he is as a director, I also don't think he wants to then use this as a launching pad to, direct a Marvel movie. There's nothing wrong with directing a Marvel movie, but I'd get the impression he just wants to be able to do the next weird-ass thing that he's able to do. And I hope this does well enough for him to do it, because this really shows that he has an idea and a vision, and given a cast who are game, oh my God, this is something people should be seeing, and some of them won't like it.
No. No. I mean, again, you're either gonna love it or you're gonna hate it, and if you're gonna hate it, it's because it's just not something that you're into, and I mean, I hate to sound like one of those people that's like, oh, I only like the really weird shit, but you really have to like weird shit to enjoy this movie, because there's nothing that happens makes sense. At some point, Nicolas Cage develops some sort of vaguely superhuman strength, in which he gets his hand nailed to a floor at one point and just just pulls it right out. No big. He's fine.
He's either beyond. Well, this is like if I'm going to follow the logic of the movie, here's my idea of it. He barely survives being barbed wired, hung to a tree to witness Mandy being burned alive in a sleeping bag, which is only one of the Friday the 13th connections to this movie. The other being that at one point Cage was told by Panos that I kind of thought of Red at a certain point in the movie being like Jason Voorhees from Part 7.
I can see that. I can see that he's powered on pure vengeance at that point.
Yes. He's animated by something beyond just his own will. And I think that has everything to do with the main chemist, the guy who lives in the radio tower that he teleports to. I'm still not sure on that point, but somehow that guy might also juice him with a supernatural acid that allows him to have the strength to crush a man's skull. I don't know.
That's so great.
And again, here's the thing, like, I don't feel like this is outrageous Nicolas Cage.
No, I mean he's his mind is bent because the love of his life was murdered in front of him. I mean, I don't.
Yes.
That's not a role you underplay, and I realize that particularly people our age, we were kind of raised on a diet of like Charles Bronson and Clint Eastwood, where they were exacting revenge, but they were very low key about it. They seemed more kind of annoyed than in mourning. It's like they were exacting revenge for someone snapping off their car antenna, and not murdering their wife and raping their daughter or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, but normal human beings kind of lose their fucking minds when something happens to someone they care about.
Yes.
But let alone if you're right there, and when it happens and you're powerless to stop it. I mean, that's not even something most people can comprehend. And so, yeah, I mean, he is a little wild-eyed. He does have this, astonishing, breakdown scene in his underpants, I mean, which you're kind of alternately kind of laughing a little bit because he's in his underpants and they're like little tidy whitey, so he looks like a child because all men wearing little white underpants look like children. But he's also, he's hysterical and he's grieving, and there's something, very oddly moving about it. Just like there's something, oddly moving about him racing away at the end in his car like he's in a Quentin Tarantino movie. And covered in, he looks like there was an explosion at the ragu spaghetti sauce factory.
Yes.
But he's thinking about Mandy, and he's thinking about when they first met, and it was actually very moving because they met in such a mundane way, wearing their matching heavy metal baseball shirts that were a thing in the 80s. And, they just kind of, this shy little smile at each other, and then it ends like this. And it's just so, shocking and jarring.
It's a very intimate story in many respects, with these just amazing, fantastical elements to it that arrive in a way which everyone here knows exactly the game they're playing. So the idea that there are these three bikers who've taken acid that was so insane they made them hellraisers.
They are literally, they are Cenobites.
Yes.
I was watching this, I'm like, fucking Cenobites.
They're Cenobites, one of whom drives an ATV around. And that's, I think, the part of it that I liked the most is the idea of these Cenobites who, don't raise in a column of white smoke, but just like drive around and have to get gas from somewhere.
Yeah, and then one of them's watching some fairly mundane pornography.
Yes,
I mean, it's
just abysmally boring. That never really changes.
It's like I expected way crazier shit from a Cenobite than this.
And that's the thing. I think there's a banality to the evil on display here.
Well, everybody lives in like these dumpy little houses, and they all kind of look like they're already crime scenes. So even the biker Cenobites just live in this dumpy little, almost like a crack house, and that's. I assume that they have nothing better other than when they're just waiting to hear from Jeremiah. They have nothing better to do than watch pornography and take this super acid. Which I mean, that's a life to aspire to, I suppose.
It's a great job if you can get it when you think about it. Yeah. Yeah, the scene in which they're originally caught, and there's so much build up to it, of you're going to call this group, and at that point, I didn't know anything about what was about to happen. And then they blow on this modified conch shell, basically. And they arrive on their motorcycles and one ATV. And the guy who calls them is literally crying from how scared he is to be even close to them. And everyone is selling it. Everyone just buys in to the way to taking this seriously. And I think I appreciated that. Even as silly as it gets at points, the only reason you're allowed to laugh and recover from it is the idea that everyone else is taking this very seriously.
Yeah, and that's I like and appreciate that kind of commitment. Like, this is, I'm sure that almost every single one of those actors is thinking, this is the craziest thing I've ever been in my life. This, maybe not Nicolas Cage, although this is up there for among the craziest things I've ever seen him in. But they all, they're very, everybody's playing, yeah, you're right, they're playing it completely straight.
I think there are films where he has been crazier, but I'm not sure there's been a film that has been as mind-bendingly crazy as this. I think he has been in gonzo movies where he's gone over the edge, and big overblown Hollywood efforts a la Con Air that are just, they're basically comic books beyond comic books. And here, this is like, he's just slipped into this painting that was originally on the side of a van.
Maybe maybe the van that Jeremiah and his cult are driving around in.
He's not cool enough to have this mural on it. That's how uncool he is. At one point, we see his album cover.
Yeah, he's a hippie. He's like
Yes.
a murderous hippie.
He's a hippie burnout. And
and it's no wonder that, I mean, it's, when you think back to the early 80s, this probably wasn't flying with a lot of people by that point. We hadn't quite the whole 60s revival thing wasn't until later in the 80s. In early 80s, it was kind of a little embarrassing. You
certainly didn't have people who were embracing it.
No,
and like, if you had it as a lifestyle, this was something he had been doing for a while.
Right. Well, he did have a little bit of a backstory. He was a failed musician. So, in
the vein of the Carpenters.
Yeah, I don't think that I guess that just kind of broke his brain. And he's like, well, I guess I'll become a cult leader. With the sleaziest kind of Harmony Korine looking movie characters, cult members I could possibly find.
The legion of mouth breathers on display.
Oh my God! I don't know where they got some of these actors from. They were just, it's just like, I was like, I'm uncomfortable just looking at these people.
Yes. Nothing has felt less movie starish than anything that appears on screen in this movie.
Yeah, I mean, if Jeremiah handpicked the men in this group, to ensure that he'd be the one that always gets lucky with the ladies, good job, sir. Well done. Mission accomplished.
Yeah. Oh boy, they are really a crew. I think I knew that I was going to love this movie right away when the title card came up that the opening song was by King Crimson.
Oh, this soundtrack is just, it's so good.
Yeah,
it's so.
Unfortunately, good. it was the final soundtrack of the composer, Johan Johansson.
Oh, right. Yeah, that's a shame.
Which is a real fucking shame, because I would have loved to hear what this guy could have come up with for the rest of my life. I feel fucking robbed by this guy not being around to do more of these films, because he was gifted based on this and this alone. I'm not sure that I know the other films that he worked on, but I'm going to track them down.
Yeah, I mean, it's very much the soundtrack is pretty much a supporting character in and of itself. It really just kind of makes the whole movie.
Yeah, it's so hypnotic. I watched it. I tried to watch it again the other night for the third time. Unfortunately, I was a little out of it, so I kept phasing in and out of sleep while it was still playing.
That was probably kind of interesting.
No, it was. It really was. Because I was still in it, but not consciously watching it a lot of the time. But it was the perfect movie to do that with. Because I instantly knew where I was in the film when I would wake back up. And I would be able to watch for about 5 minutes and go back. And it was like a waking dream. I think this and Chilling Adventures of Sabrina have been the only thing to penetrate my subconscious to the point where I dream about them in a really long time. Like, I've never had a Friday the 13th dream, but I've had Mandy dreams and I've had Chilling Adventures of Sabrina dreams. So
just to take it back a little bit, Johan Johansson also did the music for Arrival. And, and Blade Runner 2049. So he.
Oh my God!
Yeah, he's done some great work, and it is a damn shame that we will not hear anything, because all of those soundtracks were slapping, as the kids say.
Yeah, I mean that Blade Runner one was amazing, and now that I think about it, Arrival has a lot of the same tones to it, but Wow. What a damn shame. Just, ugh. That makes me angry that I can't hear more of his stuff.
Yeah.
To think what he could have done if he had done Dune.
Oh my God.
With Villeneuve. Oh my God. Now I'm mad at everyone.
Now I'm depressed. So let's talk about the chainsaw fight.
Let's. Now, in terms of chainsaw fights, there aren't a ton on record. Certainly the one I always go back to is Texas Chainsaw 2.
Now, see, I think I always think of Motel Hell.
Oh, of course you do.
Of course I do.
Well, the one in Motel Hell and Texas Chainsaw 2 have a commonality in that there's one person who's supposed to be the hero who's terrible at it.
And somehow manages to not cut off their own leg or slash their own throat wide open or something.
Yes. And in this one, Red is established that he is a professional chainsawman. And so,
but yeah, the only problem is he is up against someone who has the world's longest chainsaw. Now, I don't know much about woodworking or lumberjacking or anything like that, but this seems to be an unnaturally long chainsaw.
Yes, perhaps it is something one works with if you were cutting down a redwood-sized tree, which I don't think you're allowed to do anymore. Maybe you were in 1983. But it is extraordinarily lengthy. It's very intimidating. And it also means that he's got, in boxing terminology, he's got a reach problem. Because his opponent can reach him a lot easier than he can reach the opponent. Also, his chainsaw doesn't start for a good third of the fight.
Well, I mean, how much fuel must have to go through that thing before it turns on.
Very true. But I think it might be my favorite. I think it ranks above Texas Chainsaw for me.
Oh, totally. Yeah, totally. Because again, you are. It's much more entertaining when the hero knows what he's doing. Because again,
Yes.
You're watching it saying, okay, in real life, this person would just just trip and fall and just be immediately dead. Because I've never picked up a chainsaw, but I imagine it requires a lot of upper body strength, a lot of knowing how to control it from, again, slicing into your femoral artery. I don't think it's just something you could pick up and just run at with somebody that you've never used one before.
Yes.
I might spend a little too much time thinking about this kind of thing, but you wouldn't have picked me to co-host this podcast if I didn't, so.
That's very, very true. That's a prerequisite that I scoured the internet looking for people who had thought far too wide about how to chainsaw someone to death if they got into a chainsaw fight. I really enjoyed that entire Cenobite sequence. And then the whole acid teleportation thing, which is, I've watched this movie 2.5 times, and does the acid tell him where to go?
It seems to give him some sort of vision. That he somehow now knows where to find Jeremiah. So I guess it kind of, in using hippie terms, opened up his third eye or something like that. I mean, it doesn't get anything that overtly corny, but it definitely has done something to him. Like the guy who makes all the acid, he has a pet tiger, and that somehow the tiger knows if you're a good person or not, or if you're someone who could be trusted, and Nicolas Cage passes the tiger test. Maybe we all pass the tiger test. I think I would. Do you think you'd pass the tiger test?
I think I'd get eaten the fuck up by that tiger.
That's
my luck.
You don't think the tiger would sense you to be a good person who is trustworthy?
I'd like to think yes, but I also think that would make me untrustworthy by assuming that it would be yes.
Just the sweat beads and all. It's gonna gonna register you as being nervous. Like, it's like
well, everyone should be nervous around a loose tiger. Let's put it that
he's
out
nervous.
That way.
He must be dishonest. No, I'm nervous because you're a tiger.
I just don't assume. I just don't make assumptions. I hope for the best and I plan for the worst. But he seems to be embedded inside of some sort of radio tower, which connects him to everyone who is doing his drugs. Maybe.
Honest to God, I think it's one of those things where you honestly can't ponder it too much. It's just, here's another weirdo he encounters, who makes this super acid that suddenly makes you psychic and connects you with other people who are also using the super acid. Which, when you look at these people, do you really want that?
No, I don't want to be connected to any of these people.
No.
On a meaningful level, I really, really don't.
Yeah, I don't want to know what they're doing. I don't want to know where they are. I don't want to know, about their weird shelter that kind of looks like a hot pink International House of Pancakes from the 70s. That sort of ski lodge kind of A-frame house that they're kind of hanging out in.
I have so many questions about Jeremiah's HQ. Because they're out roaming around. Are they like trolling for people? Is that their MO?
Well,
wouldn't you spend more time inside your enclave where you're connected to God or the devil?
Let's assume that they regularly make a habit of sacrificing cult members to the biker Cenobites. So clearly you have to continue driving around finding new people. So I guess that's their excuse for just leaving the chalet and driving around. I mean, you can't you have to keep a you have to keep a stock of warm bodies to sacrifice to your biker Cenobites in order to get your super acid. I swear to God, people, this movie's fucking great. I don't think we're selling it very well, but
I don't know how to sell it
well.
But
it's marvelous, and I don't think that anybody's going to listen to this that hasn't seen it yet. But
yeah, I wouldn't want them to. Quite frankly,
it's every time somebody's asked me, I say, yeah, that it's really something, and I don't mean it to sound negative. It's not. It absolutely isn't. It's like can't really describe to you what happens in this movie other than it's it's a horror movie about revenge, but that's the basic premise.
It's Conan the Barbarian in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And only the fact that almost no one in it is cool, except for Mandy.
Right. Yeah.
Everyone else is kind of a dork,
and she's cool in a way that she's not trying to be. She's just kind of this like weirdo artsy chick with a big old scar on her face that we never find out how she got that. But there's everything you need to know about this movie is A, there's a chainsaw fight. B, there's a scene in which he casts his own battle axe. And
yes.
It is amazing. It's just he casts this thing that looks like you would use in a D&D game. It's just this elaborate scrolled iron battle axe that he only really uses it like once or twice, disappointingly. He throws it at someone at one point and has remarkable aim. But
he does.
Other people he gets into a chainsaw fight with someone. Someone else he cuts off her head. Did he? The guy, the off-brand Richard Jenkins, he slammed the base of the axe into his face or something, didn't he? That was a grody one. I remember that.
Yeah, he buries
like in his chin or something.
A very
like
sharp
that.
object into his head.
And then he kills Jeremiah with his bare hands. So that axe does not get a lot of play, considering how much time is spent with him making it.
Yeah, 2018 is a year for a great many things. Not a lot of them are great. But I'll tell you this. When it comes to forging ancient weapons of mass destruction, 2018 has got every other year on lock. Because between this and Stormbreaker, it's been fucking awesome for great big axes forged in extended sequences.
This thing looks like something you would get like you medieval warrior costume from like a Halloween adventure store. It's just it's just so elaborate and he just puts a lot of loving time and work into it, and it's just you're just gonna go and kill a bunch of people with this thing. It's if you were to sell it at like the local Renaissance fair, you would make a fortune.
True. You would also get a big bidding war between the regular Renaissance Ren Fair nerds and the Klingons, because I think they would be very interested in this.
Yeah, it is a little Klingon-y looking, isn't it?
It does. It's got a little Star Trek nerd going on. Yeah, I really adore this film. I think it's singular in its nature. It's not like everything else. It has things where it's obviously made reference, but it does not live and die by those references. It is not trying to be Suspiria. It is not trying to be Conan the Barbarian.
No, it's just
and Bill Duke is in it, for crying out loud.
Yeah, but he just it's it's not like oh, I've seen some movies. It's just here are some callbacks that and I don't know that everybody would see Silence of the Lambs in it. I just I kind of base it on he kind of looks like him, and and I think it is my belief that was intentional. And definitely, I mean, the whole Cenobite thing, I mean, that's clearly, that's clearly an homage. But there's just certain aspects of it, like they just, they take acid and watch boring, mundane pornography. I mean, it's like, oh, that's disappointing.
They never clean their kitchen. I mean, that's what it comes down to.
No,
they're horrible roommates.
They live in squalor.
It would be great if there was one guy who lived with them. Greg. He's always like,
did you say Greg?
Yeah.
Greg the biker Cenobite.
Well, the other three of the Cenobites, he's just the guy who put the safety deposit down on the house.
Oh, so he's sort of like he's like Stu from What We Do in the Shadows, like the normal guy that hangs out.
Yeah. He's the one normal guy. He's like, I told you guys, the dishwasher's broken. You have to wash your own dishes.
Don't watch porn in the living room. God.
I have to walk through here. It is very embarrassing. I cannot bring a date home. And then they just garble and chatter at him. Like, all right.
No, I don't want any of the super acid.
I told you guys, I'm straight edge. Poor Greg.
Hey, Greg probably made it out of the movie alive, unlike everybody else.
That's right. You know what? Well, he's celebrating a little bit, but the other thing is he has to find 3 new roommates.
He has to clean up that mess.
Yeah. He's got one room that's just a hallway with apparently a death pit in it. That's a hard sell.
Well, there's always extra storage space is always good.
Extra storage space. Are there stairs that go down? No, it's pretty much a one-way trip.
They're probably going to want to get rid of that couch that Sword Dick would sit on and watch his porn, though. Yeah,
because he's nude? Or
no, he had the bondage suit on, but just this big old steel blade. Just where's
Yeah, I don't.
And again, is that him, or is that part of the suit, or I mean, it just I had to look twice. I did the whole almost running by. I was like, that's a sword. All right, I guess we're doing this.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. Are we doing this? And the answer invariably is yes.
Oh yes, we're doing this.
Yeah. We're very, very much doing this.
Are we crushing a man's head with our bare hands after he offered fellatio in exchange for his life? Yeah, we're doing that.
So I at this point, I guess Cage is the only person that I'm aware of to both star in a film where he drinks a beer out of someone's skull and also takes a piss on someone's skull. Those are separate movies. There's an entirely other movie in which he pees fire as a guy with just a skull on his head. The man is very skull forward.
Oh, yeah, skulls are cool.
Yeah. And so is he. Although, this is the one element that I felt was a little out of place. And Panos tried to play this off on Shockwaves recently, where he goes, Nick Cage is one of those guys, you look at him and you think, is that guy 50? Is that guy 28? No. You look at him and you say he's 50.
Yeah, no, he's showing his age.
He is, and that's okay. He should be allowed to be 50. And I don't know who you would cast who is age appropriate to be Mandy, but it is a little weird. He is basically twice her age in this movie.
I think the actress is in her 30s, so it's not that extreme of a difference. I don't think that really bothered me that much, because she just came off as so ethereal and kind of otherworldly that she could have been anywhere between like 18 and 40. She looked really pretty in some scenes, and she looked really beat down in others. It was just it was, again, in telling us nothing about this character, it made it more interesting. It also made it more suspenseful. There was, up to a certain point, I still thought, you're going to find out that she was in this cult once, or she's in on it the whole time. And I was like, I hope that's not how it goes, because that would be really corny. And it didn't, thankfully. So,
I mean, at the end, was I saying, please, by killing all these people, she's magically alive. Please, by killing all these people, she's magically alive. She's not.
She's not. He's just thinking back, and he's still probably tripping, the biggest balls you've ever seen in your life. So, and again, that's what makes to me the part where he's just reflecting on how they met. Just weirdly moving, because again, there was just this, boring, they met at a party. Okay. And there wasn't anything weird about that scene. It wasn't like, the tiger from earlier, he just goes running through the party or anything like that. It's just this really simple, normally lit flashback to how they met. And then
weirdly though, that is the same party where Greg met the Cenobite bikers.
He just heard they needed a place to stay, and
he's like, I need roommates, and like, we've connected through acid with hell, and we're slowly becoming demon spawn, but we just got out of a lease. Can we look at the space?
We can give you that. We can give you that 2 months. We can give you that 2 months plus security.
So we're making all sorts of bank by selling crazy acid and killing people for cults. It's a growth industry.
Yeah, well, as long as you guys keep that to yourselves, I'm fine with it. And as long as you don't watch porn in the living room.
Yeah, we won't do that. Okay, because I have a TV, but I don't have a VCR. I do not have a Betamax. Oh, but we have Betamax. What was that? Nothing. Horn dick. It was a great party. You should have been there.
Who among us has been to a party and made conversation with someone dressed entirely in leather with a steel horn dick?
Guy was a head like the Black Knight from Monty Python and the Holy Grail.
This crazy porn he wants to show you, and like that kind of looks like it's regular porn. No, this is like spice porn. No.
Just keeps going. Like, does anyone get pizza delivered,
or
the
same 30-second clip over and over again? No.
Yeah, it appears dismal. It's not a great advertisement for porn. If you were going into Mandy to see great porn, you're coming to the wrong place.
On that note,
what better note is there to finish on? As far as a recommendation goes, we both recommend the living hell out of
Oh
this.
yes, 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 yes. And you will have friends that you'll recommend this to, and they're gonna hate it, and you're just gonna
Yeah.
have to learn to live with that, and you quietly take pity on them for their bad taste. Don't
I
say anything.
think
Don't say anything like, "Well, you just didn't understand it," or
uh,
just maybe try watching it again. Don't say anything like that. Just sigh, nod, and say, "Yeah, I see that. That's okay," and just
I
leave
do
it
think
alone.
people I do think the better way to recommend it is that they need to understand that the first half an hour nothing happens in
No.
this movie. You are slowly introduced to two lonely yet connected people whose only, true tether to earth is one another. And then about halfway into that, you meet a total fucking loser with a van full of other losers. And then around the half an hour mark, shit goes crazy for the next hour.
Yeah, and doesn't stop. There's at no point does it ever other than his breakdown in the bathroom. It never
Yes.
stops. It just keeps this insane level of I don't know what's going on. I'm just gonna go with it.
Yeah. Take the ride. And those title cards are amazing.
Mm-hmm.
For sure. So that pretty much does it for us. Thank you so much for being a Patreon of the level to get this episode. We really appreciate you.
Yes, we do. Our next one, we are looking at likely doing Apostle, the Netflix exclusive with Dan Stevens, who also knows about movies in which nothing but crazy shit happens.
It's very, very true.
Yeah, so that'll be up in December.
Yes. And so until next time, for myself and for Gina, bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.
Kill by Kill is produced by We Write Good and is intended for entertainment purposes only. Friday the 13th is owned by Paramount Pictures. Jason is owned by New Line Cinema. No infringement is intended. Kill by Kill logo was designed by Josh Hollis. Visit him at joshhollis.com. The Kill by Kill theme was created exclusively for us by Revenge Body. Get the whole track and much, much more at revengebodymemphis.bandcamp.com today.